Okay, welcome to the talk on the use of free software to make high quality online videos. So therefore, I think that this logo that you're seeing is very, very appropriate for this talk. And we have a saying in Korea where we say that if poison was free, then Koreans would gladly eat poison. And I think that this type of mentality is not just applicable for our culture, but I think it is applicable especially in the context of making high quality online videos. This talk will show the hidden costs that are involved in making these high quality online videos, and so the free software goes a long way in freeing up the resources to cover up these hidden costs. Nonetheless, I don't want to scare you off making online videos because I believe that most mathematicians are free-minded. I mean, they are very, very. I believe that out of all professions, engineers, doctors, mathematicians, I believe that mathematicians are probably what I would call minimalists. So, but anyway. Even if, the second motive of this talk is to show that one can really make acceptable quality online videos totally free. And I believe that, these free online software videos will help towards this goal. So whether you're stuck in the mode of making high quality online videos or acceptable online videos, now, okay, let me be a bit more specific. What I mean by acceptable online videos means like, as minimalists, mathematicians are minimalists, one thing that makes mathematicians hesitate towards making these online videos is the steep uptake of their time. So I believe that you can make acceptable. This online video will show you that you can really make some online. Will give you some techniques on how you can really make some acceptable online videos without going not that much far from what the effort that you used to expend in preparing lecture notes and teaching to a physical classroom on a physical blackboard. Okay, so without further ado, let's then begin with the talk. Right. Okay, so here's the title, the formal title of the talk: Free Etools for Free-Minded Mathematicians. Right. Now, this talk is split into three parts. The first part is what I would call expectations. What are reasonable expectations of what a good online video should look like, right? And so here we can see standards. So here I'm going to see the standards that have been set, like international standards, like in US universities, okay? And the second part of the talk is the actual making of the online video, where I will try to ease the fear of making these online videos by preparing the person or the lecturer to have XYZ ready, so it's not too much of a chaotic entrance into the making of an online video. So beforehand you can just get XYZ all ready in your basket, and then after XYZ is already in your basket, it will give you a bit more confidence to making online videos. And then we then come back to the topic of, can free tools really achieve this goal of making good quality online videos? Right. Okay, so let's begin with part one, where we look at expectations of reasonable expectations of what a good online video should look like. Right. So now I believe that a good example speaks much better than many words. So I'm going to ask you guys to sit back and then listen to a Khan Academy online video. It's on a very elementary topic, so the math should be easy for any lecturer to follow, even high school students. And then so that this will free our minds to look at the quality, but it will have enough features so that it should give us what I believe are it will show and illustrate qualities of what should of what a good online video should have.
So I have talked a lot about different ways that you can visualize multivariable functions that'll have some kind of multidimensional input or output. These include three-dimensional graphs, which are very common, contour maps, vector fields, parametric functions. But here, I want to talk about one of my all-time favorite ways to think about functions, which is as a transformation. So anytime you have some sort of function, if you're thinking very abstractly, I like to think that there's some sort of input space, and I'll draw it as a blob, even though, that could be the real number line, so it should be a line, or it could be three-dimensional space. And then there's some kind of output space. And again, I just very vaguely think about it as this blob, but that could be, again, the real number line, the xy plane, three-dimensional space, and the function is just some way of taking inputs to outputs. And every time that we're trying to visualize something, like with a graph or a contour map, you're just trying to associate input-output pairs. If f inputs, 3 gets mapped to the vector 1, 2, it's a question of how do you associate the number 3 with that vector 1, 2. And the thought behind transformations is that we're just going to watch the actual points of the input space move to the output space. And I'll start with a simple example that's just a one-dimensional function. It'll have a single variable input, and it'll have a single variable output. So let's consider the function f of x is equal to x squared minus 3. And of course, the way we're used to visualizing something like this, it'll be as a graph, and you might kind of be thinking of something roughly parabolic that's squished down by 3. But here, I don't want to think in terms of graphs. I just want to say, how do the inputs move to those outputs? So as an example, if you go to 0, when you plug in 0, you're going to get negative 3. 0 squared minus 3 is equal to negative 3. So somehow we want to watch 0 move to negative 3. And then similarly, let's say you plug in 1, and you get 1 squared minus 3 is negative 2. So somehow we want to watch 1 move to negative 2. And just to list another example here, let's say you're plugging in 3 itself. So 3 squared minus 3 is 9 minus 3 is 6. So somehow in this transformation, we want to watch 3 move to the number 6. And with a little animation, we can watch this happen. We can actually watch what it looks like for all these numbers to move to their corresponding outputs. So here we go. Each number will move over and land on its output. All right, I'll clear up the board here. So I kept track of what the original input numbers are by just kind of writing them on top here. And that was a way of just watching how it moves. And I'll play it again here. Let's just watch where each number from the input space moves over to the output. And with single variable functions, this is a little bit nice because it gives this sense of inputs moving to outputs, but where it gets fun is in the context of multivariable functions.
Welcome back to the talk. I hope you enjoyed that short presentation. And the first thing that I wanted to bring to your attention was that notice how good the sound quality was. You see, there was what I mean by that is there's no background sound and also no echo. And I think this is a good first point, because I think, especially with our field, the voice is going to be dominant, and so I don't think you can compromise this requirement or expectation of a good online video. Yeah, it's like absolutely no background sound. There's no echoes, and notice how dominant the voice was in the presentation. Okay. The second quality that I picked up from this video was that it was very, very interactive. So you could actually see it's interactive, just like a chalkboard, you see. So you could see how the piece by piece, you see how the concepts were worked out, like as if it was done on a chalkboard. Now, at the University of Pretoria, there were a couple of lecturers that loved doing slide presentations, and they would just rock up in the lectures and then just pop up their slides and then just go through them. And most of the students just didn't like it, and because it was like, one of the things they felt was it was too fast, and one of the many complaints they had was it went too fast. So notice that when you have this interactive piece by piece presentation, you are actually you are slowing it down for somebody to also learn. Yeah, I mean, because I mean, the presenter already knows the stuff, so he has to have some empathy for the person that he's listening to, and not everybody thinks like the presenter. There's so many different mindsets. So you see, so that's one of the advantages, and so that's why the student doesn't feel overwhelmed. You see, it's yeah, he's been giving time for his own mind to reset and change itself during the learning process. Also, as you saw, like with this type of interactive chalkboard style presentation, you could sense that it wasn't perfect and polished like a slide, you know, like a slide. And I think this is one of the other things that is attractive about lectures that are delivered in person in chalk, because this thing where you see another imperfect human being presenting this piece of mathematics, this also engages the student. So it gives space for the student to see, wow, I can actually make improvements to the presentation. You know, I could actually say this or that in a different way. You know, because it's so. So I think this imperfection that comes when you try to do it interactively is a very positive thing for students. And I always tell my students, my last course I taught was the third year partial differential equations in Potchefstroom, and I told my students that, you know, every single lecture you're going to see arithmetical errors being done on board. So and even on the example, even on the homework sheets that I gave to them, there were always arithmetical errors, but it was, I felt that type of thing kind of encouraged them to think more responsibly and critically, and not like follow what I was saying robotically. So you would have hands going up, emails coming back to me saying that, are you sure there's no arithmetical error here? Can you check that, sir? And you see, so you have this engagement because the engagement comes when you got two imperfect people presenting perfect mathematics. Okay, so I believe that this thing of trying to be perfect and make perfect online videos with zero errors is, I think that is a wrong mindset to have. Of course, to go the other extreme and say, I don't care if I make errors. But obviously, there's one thing where I would say there's one error that should really be avoided. And this is the error of making conceptual errors on your online videos. So I don't think so. Conceptual errors are big no-nos, but these arithmetical errors and blah blah blah, and this, getting the calculations or the fractions right and wrong, I believe that engages the audience in a way. Okay, so let's now turn to the next part of the talk, the second part of the talk, where we shall look at the 4 components to the making of an online video. And the first one is the drawing tool, and that's what you saw in that video that you just saw, that short clip that you saw. What you saw is you just saw the voice and this pen moving like the finger of God, and this drawing tool. You see, so that is all being made by what is called a touchpad. It's a drawing. So it's basically a desktop where you can scribble on, and the pressure then imprints. Okay, so these are called drawing tools. Okay, so that is the thing that you need if you want to make that type of interactive, like chalkboard style interactive videos. You really need what's called a drawing tablet. Okay, we'll return to this topic a bit later, but this is what I would say. This is where you really have to put a lot of money in, and that is in a drawing tool. And of course, a lot of money means different things for different people. So I'll be more specific and come back to this point a bit later. But for me, I would at this point want to thank the University of the Western Cape, because they paid for my drawing tool. They paid. The one that I ordered is the Lenovo Mix 520, and it's roughly in the range of 13,000 rands. Yeah. And but I'll come back to this drawing tool, but because the talk is really about free e-software, so let's not get distracted, and then let's keep going on with the free e-software. Okay, so the next part is how to record your desktop, you see, because so as you're making so as your drawing tool is making these lines and on your desktop, something has to record it, and this is the software. So there are many software that are out there that actually does record your desktop. Okay, and the one that I want to talk about in this video is one that's called OBS. It's called Open Broadcaster Software. And this is, I'm actually making this video using OBS. And I think that let's sit back and then let's just listen to this short presentation of OBS, and this presentation is made by a guy that is very experienced with this type of desktop recording software, and he he actually is going to make a short presentation on OBS, and he vouches that it is not just, it is totally free, and which it is, and it is just as powerful, if not more, than software in the range of, than the elite's desktop recording software in the range of 18,000 rands. So, I mean, who wouldn't be happy if they saved 18,000 rands? So let's sit back and just let's listen to this expert explanation of this open broadcast software.
720 we're going to take a look at in terms of OBS is you've got something called scenes, and then you've got something called sources. You can think of scenes just as you would in a movie. If you're going to change scenes, you're going to have a whole new collection of sources. Now, sources can be a wide variety of things, from your webcam to your desktop, and we'll be going through that here shortly. The mixer is just going to be any audio input, and some of these things in here aren't really going to apply to this particular video. Okay, so let's go ahead, and now that we've got kind of familiar with some of the basics of the interface, let's go ahead and just start building what could be kind of a mock webinar setup, because I think that's going to be the best way to actually start learning the process. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to rename this scene right here to starting. And this is what people are going to see when we are actually starting our live broadcast, because we don't want to just go live and show our webcam. We want to give people a time to actually, you know, find their digital seats, so to speak, so that they can kind of file in and that sort of thing. So the first thing we want to do is we create that scene, which is going to be a container of things. And in this case, it's just going to be one thing, and it is going to be an image. So we're going to go ahead and say starting image. We're going to click OK. And we're going to browse our computer for an image. So in this case, I have actually already created an image. So I'm just going to go ahead and upload. And you can create this in something like Canva. You just want to make sure that it's the same resolution as whatever you are, your actual canvas or video size is. Then you're going to notice here a couple of little options that show up next to it. You can click the eye if you want to hide it, or if you want to lock it so it can't be moved around, then just click the lock. So as you can see, I can actually move this around if it is not locked. And there you go. So that's pretty basic. That's pretty simple. We've already created a single scene. So this is what's going to show up once we go live. So let's go ahead and create another scene here. And let's go ahead and create one specifically for our webcam. So let's go ahead and jump on over to Video Capture Device. Create New, click OK. I guess I'm already, oh I see, we'll just call this webcam 2. I think I've got that name used in another project or something like that. So then what you're going to see here is this nice device drop down. So if you've got a webcam installed, you can just click on that. Hello everyone, you can see me now through my webcam. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and click OK. Then you'll see here it's going to be just like the image, and now what I can do is I can actually go through here and I can resize it. And so there you go. You see that now up and running. Now you see over here as well, one of the things that I can do is I can actually click on this to switch between scenes. So if I click on that, you'll see this, and then if I jump back over here, you'll see me on the webcam. Okay, so I can click that lock button, and as you can see, I can no longer move this around. Now, one of the things that would not be broadcasting right now, however, is my voice. The only reason you can hear me is because it's post-production and I'm talking through the microphone. So what we're going to need to do to get this to work properly is we're going to now need to add my microphone so that once I start talking, then we'll be able to see that displayed on the screen as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to jump up to audio input capture. Okay, once we've done that, we just want to change the name to our microphone, and we're going to click OK. That's then going to give us a nice little drop down where you can select from all of our input devices. So again, if you're any type of microphone that you're using, if you're using a fancy one like mine, or if you're just using something even like a USB headset or something, you can select that here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and select. There we go. Now what you'll see here is that you're going to have, just like another item here, you're going to have mic listed, and then you're going to see over here on the right, a nice little audio mixer. So that's going to start to show our audio levels. So this is what's actually going to be output to the stream from an audio perspective. So I can mute this. I can also turn it down. So if you're a little bit too loud for your audience or something like that, you can easily change that here. Okay. Then what we're also going to want to be able to do is, let's say you also want to be able to talk to your audience while you're on the starting screen. What you can do is you can pop on down here, hit plus, audio input capture, and then you can see you can actually select something that's already existing. In this case, it's the mic. And then you can see here that you can go ahead and add that in. So what you could do is mute it. You could actually start streaming and go through the process of streaming. And then say you're like getting ready to start, you could then unmute this, say to the people watching, hey, I'm here. We're going to be getting started here shortly. Thanks so much for joining us. And then you can mute your microphone so that people can no longer hear any background noise. So again, really easy way to set up both pieces, and you can see that's pretty easy to get up and running. Okay, so now we've got a starting screen. We've got a webinar or the webcam view. And again, you're not limited to what I'm doing here. You can create unlimited scenes. Okay, but now let's say we wanted to show the audience my desktop, right? So I wanted to go ahead and create another scene here. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and say this is going to be my desktop. Let's go ahead and add then in here a nice display capture. If you're using two monitors, this is where you're going to want to pick which monitor that you're using. 0 is going to be the default monitor. 1 is going to be the secondary. We're going to put under crop, we're going to put none. We're going to click OK. Then we're going to be able to go up here and actually resize this to fit the size of the actual video window or the canvas. Let's go ahead and do that. Perfect. Then we can jump back over here and click lock. So then you'll be able to see here my nice little mouse cursor, just as though it is my full desktop view. Then from there, let's say we also want to go ahead and add back in our webcam. So I'll go ahead and select add existing. Since we've already set that up, webcam. There we go. Click OK, and then here I am. Hello. And let's say we want that to show up maybe a little bit smaller here in the corner so that you can kind of see me as I'm broadcasting. We'll go ahead and lock that down. And then there you go. When I'm over here, you'll be able to see my whole desktop so I can display any number of apps or demonstrations or things that I wanted to do. For example, one of the things that you could do is you could pop open something like Keynote, and you could start your slide presentations. You could go full screen with this. You could hide the sidebar, and you could go through and start doing a nice normal slide presentation. But then let's say that you didn't necessarily want to have your webcam showing while you are doing your Keynote presentation. So here's something you could do. Just pop over here, click duplicate. Let's say desktop, no cam. Then all you have to do is delete the webcam out of that particular view. And then there you go. You can just pop between each of these. You could see, hello everyone, here I am. And then you could go to the desktop view, and then you could click on down to the no cam view if you wanted people to be able to focus just on this broadcast.
Welcome back to the talk, and welcome back to reality. So there you saw what I think is a very, very good presentation of OBS, and if there wasn't any lockdown, I would be I'd be happy to freely give up my time and afternoon to show how to use those buttons. To use those buttons in a lab setting, but anyway, that's the best I could find for online teaching of this OBS software. So OBS software is you just download it from the internet, and when you install it, that's what you will see. Now, the reality of using OBS requires you to buy another monitor. You can't use OBS with just one monitor. You need a second monitor. because the second monitor is where is what you're going to it's what you're presenting or broadcasting out, whereas your first monitor is occupied with running the OBS software. So so you see, that is really the hidden cost. And for those of you who don't know how to set up 2 monitors, well, it's not that difficult. You just have to buy an extra cable, and then you just plug it into your your PC, and I'm available to if any of you need help for that, then I can do that. I can help you, but it should look like this. And this is what it should look like. It should look like this is how your setup should look like. This is how a dual monitor looks like. So so what happens here is that the left one is the principal one, and then the right one is what's called an extended desktop. Now notice that this type of setup is also beneficial for mathematicians who do LaTeX, because you can put your output, your DVI output on the second on your extended, on the second monitor, which has the extended desktop, and then you can with your primary monitor, you can just write all your LaTeX code there. So it's really nice. And for those mathematicians who love using their desktop, well, you've got extra space. Now, many mathematicians will say, well, it's expensive. No, it's not, because I use 2 cheap refurbished 17-inch monitors, and there is a PC shop called I just found it out this morning. There's a PC shop called, I think what it is called, Direct. Okay, I got the name. Universe Direct. Yeah, that's the name. Universe Direct. And they sell 17-inch monitors, the square ones, the old 17-inch monitors, square ones, for 350 rands. Okay, so that's what I would say is a hidden cost for the use of this OBS software, and I don't think it is that too steep. Okay, so the second okay, so let's now look at the third component for actually making your online video, and this is what is called a video editing software. Now, why I would really recommend a video editing software is because it saves the lecturer the effort of remaking his videos. So let's say that while you're making your online video, you wanted to communicate that concept in a more sharper way. Then if you did that, but you see, it's already been recorded, so in this case, without a video editing software, you'd be forced to redo everything, even the part that you did well. So what a video editing software allows you to cut the clip, cut the part that you don't really want, and then put in another clip where you express that concept in a much sharper way. So once again, there is both free and commercial software that does it. But the one I would recommend, and it is totally free, and it is and it has I've used it, and it's really perfect. Well, from my point of view, is called OpenShot. So let's just sit back, and we shall listen to a demonstration of OpenShot.
Hello again, this is Jonathan, and in this video we're going to take a look at the basics. So what we're going to do is build a very simple video with a few different files, kind of walk you through the flow, the basic, video editing flow. Very basic, but I'm going to try to keep this very easy and show you a few different ways to do things. So we're going to start out we need to add our files to the project. The first step of any video editing project is to add our files. There's a few different ways we can do that. The easiest is just open up your file system on your computer, which has your folders and files on it, and select your files and just drag them into OpenShot. So it doesn't get much easier than that. Another way I'm going to remove them here. Another way you can add files is by right-clicking and saying import. And even another way is to click the green plus sign, and that brings up this little dialog, and you can select multiple files. But again, the easiest way is to just drag them in. So now, once we have all of our files inside OpenShot, the next step is to move them down to our timeline in some order. So I'm going to start with moon, and it's just a picture of a moon. So we've added moon. That's the first thing we're going to put in our video. I can click anywhere on this bar here, which is kind of like our like a ruler or a timeline. These are different times: 48 seconds, 32 seconds, 16 seconds. So they represent the time of our video. So things kind of runs left to right. So the very first clip we added is our moon. So the next one, let's see, I will grab a Minecraft picture. And so you can see by just clicking and kind of dragging on this bar, I can preview our video and of course, we can move things around. It's very easy. So kind of gives you hopefully the idea that you can kind of drag your clips down. So let's see my next one. Let me reorder these a bit. So my next one will be clouds. Okay, so that gives us 3 kind of cool pictures. And then we also have a video, which is Big Buck Bunny, a fun video. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you take a look. So this is just a video. So as you can see, we're just kind of scrubbing through it or watching it. And then I have an audio clip up here, and I'm going to drag that below my pictures. And so this is where the magic kind of starts to happen. Anything that's stacked on top of each other, like this audio clip and this picture, they play at the same time. Kind of like you can imagine that red line is what's going to play at that moment. And you can have as many things stacked as you want, which is pretty fun, and you can do a lot of very creative things. So for example, if I want to play this back, I can use our preview controls and hit play. Now, it's not a very long audio clip. It kind of ends right there. But you can imagine if it was a longer clip, it would continue to play behind behind all of our photos. So that's one way. It's just simply dragging files onto our timeline until we're happy. I'm going to drag and select them all and right click, and that gives me all sorts of fun menus, which we'll cover in a later video. But one of the options is remove, and that will remove things from our timeline.
Welcome back to the talk from that lively demonstration of OpenShot. And right, okay, so video editing software really saves the lecturer a lot of time, and the lecturer can always go back on what he said, just as if he were in a physical classroom. Okay. Now something that also works very well with OpenShot is called Handbrake. And although Handbrake is not a video editing software, what Handbrake does is that it's got a much it actually compresses your final video. So let's say after you've done the chopping and the editing, and then you string what you feel is, you know, the perfect video, and then you then glue them together, all using OpenShot. After you've done that, now you've got a single video with all your pieces now put together. Then OpenShot does in fact compress the video, so that, you see, especially for students, because our target audience are students, and you know students are even more cheapskated minded than mathematicians are, and so in terms of data, we have to tailor it for them. So OpenShot has a way of actually compressing these videos, and so you can all do it all via OpenShot. But Handbrake is a dedicated compressor, so it will compress your video, and because it's dedicated, it has got more features with compressing it. Now, in order to use Handbrake, you set the parameters which will then determine how big your video will end up being. But in order for you to set these parameters, you need to undergo a learning curve where you understand what really is a bit rate of a video. I think if you get the concept of a bit rate of a video, then the use of Handbrake will be dead simple. Okay, so let's take another break, sit back, and then let this person expertly demonstrate and show you what is the bit rate in a video.
Video resolution refers to the size of a video frame. In other words, how many pixels are in the video. The higher the resolution, the more pixels and the better the video will look. The video frame rate obviously tells you how many frames are played back in 1 second. The higher the frame rate, the smoother the video will look. But there is something else about video that's very important that most people aren't very familiar with. It's called bitrate. Every digital video is simply a bunch of information stored on some computer. It could be stored on your hard disk, maybe on YouTube or a website of some sort, whatever. You get the idea. When the video is played, the CPU or the GPU in your computer processes the file, after which it ends up as visual information on the screen. In a camera, it's obviously the other way around. The amount of data processed by the CPU of the computer every second while playing the video is what we call the bit rate. More bits per second means more information in the video, which means more information on your screen, which means more detail in the video, and therefore better quality. Higher bitrate also means you need a more powerful computer because it needs to process more bits per second, and also more storage capacity because the video file will take up more space. An interesting thing about bitrate is that it doesn't necessarily depend on the resolution or the frame rate of the video. For example, when I say the phrase Full HD video, you might think of something that looks crisp and sharp like this, but actually this is also Full HD and it looks rubbish. Only in this example I have reduced the video's bitrate to only 512 kilobits per second. The resolution of the video is fine, but there isn't enough data, there isn't enough information to properly utilize all of those pixels. So higher resolution video also needs a higher bitrate in order to look good. Also, you shouldn't increase the bitrate too much. Using an extremely overkill bitrate is often not a good idea, since you probably won't see the quality increase past a certain point, but it will take up a massive load of disk space and require a lot of processing power to be played back. Here's a very handy table that tells you what bit rates are appropriate for several frame rates and resolutions. feel free to pause the video and take a closer look at it. So then, in a video editor, when you export your video, you can choose either constant bitrate or variable bitrate. Now, constant bitrate is pretty obvious. It means that you set a very specific bitrate, and then the video editing software will export your entire video at that bitrate. And while constant bitrate can be nice in some circumstances, we usually use variable bitrate. In a video, there are always bits where there is just less stuff going on, less details, less movement. Maybe a black screen appears for 5 seconds. You don't need 10 megabits per second to display an entirely black screen. This is where variable bitrate comes in. VBR means that the bitrate is adjusted according to how much stuff is going on in the video. When there is a scene with lots of details and movement, it will increase the bitrate to make sure that it will look good, and when there is some black screen or something else that doesn't require a high bitrate, it will turn the bitrate down to save some space and processing power. This makes VBR very efficient. With VBR, you can set a target bitrate, which will then function as an average rate for the entire video. So there you go, now you know a little more about bitrate. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.
Welcome back to the talk. Now we've now come to the last part of the components that are needed in making an online video. And the last part is dealing with broadcasting your lecture video that you made with such effort. And here we have free software. Once again, the software is free. And the first one that's available to maths lecturers at UWC is the software called eCanva. So once you've compressed it to student-friendly size using Handbrake, you see the most important parameter in compressing the video is actually the bit rate. So I normally use around 400 or 500, and I use what's called, I put it on the setting of average bit rate setting. And that is only available in Handbrake and not in OpenShot. So once I've actually set it to that setting and compressed it to a student-friendly size, all I do is I just upload this recorded video up into eCanva. Now, there are other ways of broadcasting, and this is given by none other than OBS, and that explains why the broadcaster, the broadcaster term is in OBS. And this allows you the option to actually stream to YouTube. Yes. And in order to do this, you need to have a YouTube account. But that also is free. And it only takes 24 hours to activate. So do the planning, get your YouTube channel up, and all your videos that you upload and make will be found in YouTube Studio. Okay, now, streaming to YouTube is probably a nice way, especially for the audience, because for the audience it just amounts to, it's just as easy as just watching a YouTube video, sitting in front of your screen watching a YouTube video. But streaming to YouTube would make sense in a webinar setting when you're presenting, and also it gives it's not as obviously polished as recorded and edited videos, but so it gives a more natural and imperfect broadcast, but that's fine. And but you can stream it live. One way you can do it is stream it live. So in this case, notice that when you stream it, your streamed video is actually recorded in your YouTube video. Or you could do delayed live, which I feel is the more popular way with us mathematicians, because in a delayed live mode, what will happen here is that you broadcast it in a limited or a private mode, which means that only the people that can see it have the HTTP link. Without that HTTP link, you can't see it, as opposed to the public, where you can just put up some catch tag names and then the search engine will find it out. But in the delayed live case, let's say you want to present a webinar to the maths group, you just have you make it in the privacy of your home, and then after you've made it, it will then be recorded in your YouTube Studio channel. And then with that, you just share the link. The link will be associated with that recorded stream, and then you email that link to whoever you want to see, and then the audience just has to click it, and it's as easy as just watching a YouTube video. Okay, so we've now finished with the second part of the talk, and now we are going to the end part of the talk, where we really asked ourselves a question: does free really measure up? And as you know, free always conjures up two negative connotations. It's low quality, it's unreliable. But OBS is totally free, and I mean the software itself is totally free. And it definitely breaks these two stereotypes totally. But as we saw, it's not really free because it takes time for you to learn and practice. You also need what's a dual monitor system, but that's also not that much of a big hit because there's a shop called Universe Direct in Montague Gardens, 350 rands for a 17-inch square monitor. And that can be your second monitor, okay? And but OBS also has got, and as we mentioned, that sound is very critical when you're making these online maths videos, and OBS is extremely critical because in this setting, because you can set the OBS microphone setting to filter out the background noise. So what I do in my OBS setting is I set the noise suppression to the lowest level, and I also set the gain to its lowest level. And I don't know whether you're going to catch, but what just happened is there was just background noise, like there's cars and motorbikes and the smartphone going ping. But you see, this hasn't, I don't think it's been picked up because of the settings I've set in the OBS setting. And also, it hasn't been picked up, and also the voice is quite dominant enough because of the use of a Boya BY-M1 lavalier condenser microphone. Now, lavalier is basically those microphones that you clip on, leaving your hands free. Condenser is a more sensitive microphone, so it amplifies your voice. So if you've got a soft voice, you don't have to talk much. But you just have to be a bit careful on the condenser microphone. But the Boya BY-M1 microphone, after I checked up the reviews from experts and other people, it did measure up, and it'll set you back 300 rands at Takealot. But for me, I've been perfectly happy, and I totally agree with all the reviews on Boya BY-M1 lavalier microphones. And I feel that these are the best value for what they do. For 300 rands, I think there's very little microphone that can give you this to make your voice dominant on the online video. And I went around different microphone shops, and so just from my finding, yes, I do agree with what the YouTube video reviews say, is that for 300 rands, this condenser microphone is Boya BY-M1 it's a steal, yeah, and the bass is really wonderful. Okay, So let's now conclude this rather long talk. And I was a little bit long-winded because the goal of the talk was to try to motivate maths videos, maths lecturers to really see the advantage of making online maths videos. And but there's a point that I would really like to hit upon in my conclusion. And imagine if that Khan video that you saw was presented in an amateur way. In other words, the sound was bad, and you just saw a typed note, slap bang, like a slide, over polished. I think, that would really be, that guy really knows how to teach, as anyone can see. But with a bad audio and a bad visual, that would badly represent how good the presenter was in that Khan video. So for me, I would tell people, maths lecturers, that an online video is like the lecturer's clothes. And I'll just add a personal story to this point that I'm making, because I feel this is a dominant point. I figured out that because there was so much chalk when I used to, because I loved teaching in chalk, and so I would and often I would lecture for 2 hours straight. So I thought that the best lecturer's clothes for this job was a pair of workers' overalls. So I used to lecture in overalls, and it was I didn't really see how other people would view it as, but it other people really didn't. It didn't come positively to other lecturers, and one of them spoke to me in a very, very indirect manner, saying that your clothes reflects what you think of yourself. But but anyway, that's a story, and just to emphasize the point that an online video is really like your lecturer's clothes. Okay, and from my experience in making these online videos for UWC students up to now, I target 10-minute long videos, given the short attention span of this new generation of students. And I only put one concept per video. And short videos is also good because you don't have to do much editing. It's like you hardly make a mistake. And you just break it up and break up many concepts in several short videos, and it doesn't weigh you down. And the third trick that I used, because I didn't have my drawing tool available, is just using OBS, totally free. My 2 cheapskate monitors I bought both of them for 1,000 rands. And what I then did was that I, in the absence of drawing videos, I wanted to make my lecturer notes a bit more interactive. And I used handwritten notes, because I do everything. I still do things by hand. I mean, when I did my PhD, I was trained by a very, very good professor, and he banned me from communicating with him via PDF notes. We only communicated via scanned notes. He said and he taught me to go back to high school mode, where I would just write all my results on a college exercise book. It was almost like I went back to high school, and then I used to scan it to him. But it was the correct training, and so I prefer using handwritten notes over typed notes, because those look too polished and artificial, and they don't, I believe, don't engage the students as much. So what I do is that but what I do is that with my scanned notes, I scan my handwritten notes. So I bought a cheap scanner for 60 rands at a refurbished plant. And what I then did was that I then scanned it and then into a PDF, and then I put it in PDF hand mode. And then I just used to slide it up and down and use my mouse as a pointer. And I felt that was a lot more interactive than typed slides. Yeah. So this brings me to the end of the talk. And if I have motivated you to really view online videos as your close, then I think I'd be happy and I've achieved the purpose of the talk. So thank you for watching, and hope you have hope you put on very, very good lecturer clothes. Thank you. Bye-bye.